Good morning. Welcome to Real Talks Dominate Real Estate. It's April 9th, 2021, and I'm Charlie Bengel.
And I'm Eyerusalem Meaza. Grab a cup of coffee and let's make your real estate career better.
What's in the news today, Eyerusalem?
Well, Americans are more upbeat about the idea of selling, particularly as the vaccine rollout continues and the latest round of stimulus checks are distributed. That could come as hopeful news as many markets face severe housing shortages and buyers are increasingly being left with few choices of homes for sale. Fannie Mae's home purchase sentiment index rose by 5.2 points in March to a reading of 81.7. The components on the index that increased the most last month related to home selling and buying, household income, and home prices. The significant increase in the HPSI in March reflects consumer optimism toward the housing market and larger economy as vaccinations continue to roll out. A third round of stimulus checks was distributed and the spring home buying season began, perhaps with even more intensity this year, since 2020 spring home buying season was limited by virus-related lockdowns, says Doug Duncan, Fannie Mae's Senior Vice President and Chief Economist. More Americans also reported it's a good time to buy in the March survey compared to February, likely still being drawn to historically low mortgage rates despite recent upticks. However, that measure on home buying sentiment still lags behind pre-pandemic levels. The home buying experience is proving difficult due to rapidly rising home prices and a lack of housing supply, Duncan adds. Here's a closer look at the indicators from March. March's Fannie Mae's home purchase sentiment index reflecting responses from nearly 1,000 consumers of the housing market. 61% of consumers said it's a good time to sell, up from 55% in February. 53% of consumers said it's a good time to buy a home, up from 48% in February. 50% of Americans surveyed believe home prices will go up over the next 12 months, up from 47% the month prior. 54% of consumers expect mortgage rates to increase over the next year, up from 47% a month earlier. 82% of Americans say they are not concerned about losing their job over the next 12 months, unchanged from February. 25% of respondents said their household income is significantly higher than it was 12 months ago, up from 17% in February. In other news, your buyers could struggle to be approved for a home loan as lenders tighten standards. Home loan approval is becoming more difficult, the Wall Street Journal reports. The Mortgage Bankers Association reports that mortgage credit availability, which measures lenders' willingness to approve mortgages, is at its lowest level since 2014. Because mortgage credit is more difficult to obtain, it is a more competitive environment overall, Lawrence Young, chief economist at the National Association of Realtors, told the Wall Street Journal. Mortgage lenders are issuing more home loans at record levels, but those mortgages are most often going to those with stellar credit histories and borrowers willing to make large down payments. About 70% of mortgages granted in 2020 went to borrowers who had credit scores of at least 760. That is up from 61% in 2019, according to data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Among borrowers with approved mortgages, the median credit score was 786 in the fourth quarter of 2020. Lenders are being cautious in issuing loans as the housing market surges from strong homebuyer demand and higher home prices. Mortgage loan availability plunged about 35% annually in 2020. Lenders are being cautious as they look to protect themselves from making loans to borrowers who might lose their jobs amid the pandemic. Forbearance is another fear of lenders. To receive approval for a mortgage, some borrowers are reportedly being asked to sign statements saying they have no intention of requesting forbearance after they are approved for a mortgage. Rejected mortgage applicants may find better luck soon, however. Credit requirements likely will loosen slightly this year as mortgage rates rise and prompt a decline in lenders' bustling refinance business. Mike Fratantoni, the MBA's chief economist, told the Wall Street Journal. Last but not least, the pandemic may be shifting consumer preferences about what makes the best investment. A new study from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York asked respondents to rate which is a better investment, a home or a financial asset, such as stocks. So 90% of respondents choose owning a primary residence over investing in the stock market. Additionally, more than 50% of survey respondents say they prefer to own a rental property over purchasing stocks. Americans are increasingly bullish about housing. More households cite higher returns and lower volatility as reasons to buy a primary residence. However, the preference for housing dipped in October 2020 and returned back to the pre-COVID-19 level by February 2021. The authors of the study note, the concerns last October went over lower home price expectations, but mostly due to concerns about a risk of vacant rental units at the time. The survey notes, the pull to real estate isn't just about money. Many respondents cited housing over stocks due to the belief that real estate offers more comfort and stability. For example, desired living environment provides stability and less volatile were among the most common survey respondents. All right, so that's the last news. Americans prefer investing in homes over stocks. All right, Charlie, what's going on with rates?
Eyerusalem, hooked on phonics. Meaza, thanks for that. The 30-year fixed rate is 3 1/8. The 30-year jumbo is 3%. FHA and VA 2.625%. Rates have ticked up a bit, but they're still super low historically. Back over to you to discuss today's market.
In the last week in Hampton Roads, we saw 891 new listings hit the market, 901 properties go pending, and 852 properties sold. In the last week in the Washington metro area, within 30 miles of the White House, we saw 2,179 new listings hit the market, 1,975 go pending, and 1,196 homes sold. Back over to Charlie with our special guest.
Thanks, Eyerusalem. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the show Coach Amy Lassen. Amy, always good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Today we are discussing, so the majority of Americans think that it's a good time to buy.
Okay.
Perhaps they don't know what they're getting involved with. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about how to coach them to win.
Yes.
I was talking to a coaching client this morning in Toronto, Canada, and he told me that he was the listing agent, and this was a condominium, and I believe that it went under contract for $100,000 or $200,000 more than asking. But then the second place buyer was asking to get in touch with the first place buyer because he was going to offer her $200,000 in cash to walk away from the deal. So you think it's crazy in the US. Toronto is even worse, if you can believe it.
Well, and it's been a long run. We all say these, it's just part of the cycle and it won't, we're nearly at the top. And for as long as I've had realtor friends in Toronto, and that's been, I guess, only 9 years now that I think about it, but they were not at the beginning of their run up then.
Right.
They had been fighting the fight for a long time 9 years ago, and it has continued. So that is ridiculous. They're looking at 2 decades of this.
Yeah.
So that's ridiculous.
Good to be a Canadian listing agent. Where do you want to start with coaching our buyers to win in this competitive market?
I guess by being really bossy. And Charlie, I'm glad that we're starting with, we are coaches. We have these conversations week in and week out. I have been a bossy coach last couple of weeks. I fish around. I try to ask the questions that will lead my realtor coaching clients to understand what they most need so that I can, be the answer to their prayers. And then they don't get it. And I'll just say, fine, I'll just tell you, here's what you need. You have got to start preparing buyers for this market by showing them the current statistics. And you can't tell them, you have to show them. And they'll argue with me and they'll say, oh, I did. I told them it's competitive. I told them about, quit telling. Most of us are extremely visual, and I'm prepared, Charlie, to do exactly what I do on my coaching calls on this show if you want me to. It'd take me about 5 minutes. I actually share my screen and I show the buyer, and in this case, I show my coaching client agents exactly what I show to my buyer. I don't make them trust me. I don't tell them it's competitive. I don't tell them they're going to have to offer a lot. I walk them through the MLS. I do an MLS search in real time, take them behind the curtain, and then we come to conclusions and I let them go, well, So anyway, if you're interested, I'm prepared to do that. But today, what I want to emphasize is there's a couple of things you absolutely have to tell them. You have to tell them average days on market for their target property, and it's probably 3. It is in my market. I've done this a bunch of times. You need to tell them list to sell ratio for their target property. And I'm only going back 30, maybe 60 days for comps, depending on the sample size of what we're looking for, right? So I had somebody email me this morning and say, hey, I'm going to meet with an investor and we're going to go back a year and look at the comps. I'm like, those aren't comps.
Right. Yeah.
History.
Yep.
So depending on the pace of your market and depending on the sample size, if you can get enough data out of 30 days, stay there. So I show list to sell ratio for those 30 days worth of comps and then average days on market, and then make it visual. Don't tell them anything. Show them and let them draw their own conclusions.
Yeah, and I think the target property, the target neighborhood, that's the important piece, right? We give our associates general MLS data all the time, right? But it includes new construction that drives the days on market up, right? It includes other kind of off the wall properties that may actually make that list price to sales price ratio lower.
Sure.
So you don't want to be using general statistics is what you're saying when you're educating a buyer regarding what they're looking for. You want to be looking at the stats specific to them.
100%, and in real time.
Very good. Good. Okay.
And don't send it to them. Like, they may send the company stats. They may, I emailed it to them. Did they read it? Did they know what it meant? Don't know. Anyway, I'm very bossy about this. But I'll tell you, Charlie, I had a brand new agent who was a coaching client. She was struggling with an older investor. So basically, he knows everything, right? And he was super crabby, and he was negotiating. It's like, well, I never offer full price for a house. And they're losing. Offer after offer, they're losing. And I showed her how to do it. They were under contract by our next coaching call. It's like,
nice.
Oh! Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, are you touring homes and writing offers, or are you trying to buy a house? And how do you respond to some people? They just feel like, and there's some agents that feel like, what, they need to lose a few times before they really get it.
To some degree, that's true. But if you have not educated them, you've guaranteed that that's going to be the case. And you're not being fair. You're not being fair to them to make them learn the hard way. I really do think that some people are that stubborn, but when we say everyone is,
right,
we're ignoring the fact that we didn't educate them or give them a fighting chance.
So we're back to really having a powerful buyer consultation, something that you and I have been talking about since we started the Between Two Coaches show.
Yep.
I don't know when that was, a couple of years ago, right?
Yes.
Before we brought on, Eyerusalem and the news and all the other stuff. Okay, cool. So what's next in this journey of coaching our buyers to win?
Well, can I show you? Can I do it?
Sure, absolutely.
So here's the thing. I'm serious, because whenever I say this on a coaching call, everybody's like, oh, sure, And when I show them, that's when their eyes get big. And that's going to be the same for the consumer. So share screen. Oh, okay. I'm not quite sure what that's about. Chrome tab. This is interesting. Bear with me. Okay, this isn't going as quickly as I thought. StreamYard is a little bit of a
yeah. Sharing a screen on StreamYard is
not
as easy as Zoom.
All right, so I'll just do my entire screen, and then you'll just see that. So this is a little bit messy because it's this whole monitor screen, but you can also see my MLS. So I log into my MLS with them watching, all right? Because I want them to see in real time. I don't want them to have to trust me. Come on, log in. Wow, I'm sorry, now my computer's slow. So I log into my MLS in real time with them watching. I say, this is very exciting. I'm happy for you that you want to buy a home in the Pikes Peak region. In our market, it's absolutely vital that you start your home search with a buying strategy session. So I say all this when I first meet them. If it's on the phone, which it probably is, and my computer is thinking as I say this. And so I say it's absolutely vital that you have a strategy going in. So when is a good time for you to meet me on Zoom? We're going to log into my MLS. We're going to go through the current statistics for your target property, and we're going to come up with our strategy. And I don't say, do you want me to explain it? I don't, because I have people say that all the time. Well, I ask them if they need me to explain the buying process, and they said no. They said they're good. That's not how I handle it, right? I say, this is how this works. You will not win without a strategy. Does today work, or would Saturday be better, right? Get them on Zoom and then walk them. Boy, I don't know why it's spinning. So I guess, StreamYard, I don't know. Maybe this isn't going to work. So please trust me, agents watching, that this normally would work if you weren't doing it live on StreamYard. So log into your MLS with them watching, and then I put in the criteria with them watching. Okay. And I'm chatting them up while I do it. And this takes moments, Charlie.
Right.
I have had 3 minutes left on a coaching call and just finally forced it and said, I'm just going to show you what I mean. Log in, put in their criteria. I put in loose criteria. I don't get down in the weeds with size of mast. Like, it's not going to be there anyway. Yep. When I put in their price bracket and a school district, I usually get 1 to 3 active properties as a result. So I put in true but loose criteria. I pull up active, whatever active categories you have, active, under contract, pending, whatever categories you have, all the way down to sold. Not expired, not canceled. I'm not interested in that. So active all the way through, sold for 30 days. And unless, and you should have prepared for this beforehand. You don't need to not be surprised with your client by the result. So I prepare for this so I know what's going to come up, but then I do it with them watching. And then I put it in a table. My MLS has a name for that. You can put the results in a one-line table, and what it does is it summarizes at the bottom the days on market. It'll even do square foot, but ignore that. But days on market and list to sell ratio, right? And I'll scroll to that and I'll show them. I'm wondering if, since it's loaded, if it'll go faster now, or if I would still be making you guys stop sharing. Actually, would you put it back up, Jackie? It's working now. Okay, so I've logged into the MLS, and I will just put in some basic criteria like I mentioned. Okay, so we've got pending and sold, and your MLS is different, but that's okay. We all have the ability to do something like this. I'm going to choose single family, and this person said that they could go up to 500. I'm going to just try to keep this manageable for expedience. Trying to scoot it out of the way of the StreamYard buttons. Okay, so we've got 50 results. I'm going to put those in a table, and I'll just tell them that this is what I'm doing. All right, let's expand this so it fits the entire page. And I'm just going to show you really quick here what we need to understand. So when we look at the results of this search for your target, oh, look at that, there's 5 available. Wow, that's impressive. And I just do this in real time, okay? Maybe they expected they were going to have, and remember, all I put in there was price and school district. Like, maybe it doesn't have enough garage bays. We haven't even gotten that far. So then I scroll down to the sold section, and I say, all right, here's the summary. Let's see. Right here shows us average days on market. You can see where I'm highlighting that 4 and 7. The difference between the two numbers means that it came back on the market once. So average days on market at the time that it went under contract was 4, which makes sense. That's basically a weekend. Let's look back up here. You can see 4, 6, 3, 7, 1, 3, 4, pretty much in a weekend. And I can say that reflects my experience as a listing agent. I usually have offers on the first day, but then I'll drag it out through the weekend to collect more offers. So this is saying that basically you've got the weekend, and that does represent the experience I have as well. So then we see list to sell ratio for your target property is 103.3% at the time of contract. So that means that at the time these properties went under contract, they got offers that averaged 3.3% more than they were even asking. And you can see there's higher than that. The highest one was 113%. Now, there's a few that are lower, and we could go look closer at those ones that got much less and see what the condition of the property was, because I'll tell you in my own experience, it's very rare to have anything come in below. Hence, the average is above asking. So, how do you feel about offering more than full price for a house? And I stop. Does that make sense, Charlie?
It does. And to be clear, you're doing this before they've fallen in love with a home and they're thinking about writing the offer. This is before you're showing homes. This is to get their appetite of competition, is it not?
Yep, before they've ever seen a house.
Yep.
That's exactly right. So then I go back to the MLS and I say, well, now let's go back and look at the what's available here. Let's uncheck the ones that are kind of gone away. And the other thing that this serves is it shows them 30 days worth of sold properties. I meant to call out the number and say, oh, look at that, 18 or however many it was. I forgot how many. 18 homes sold. So then they can know if they'd been doing this 30 days ago, there was something. And I go to the map. And the reason I'm showing you guys this, and this may seem overly simple, but all these are very tangible visuals. And I've had the best experiences with doing map searches in real time. And I used to do it in the conference room at the brokerage on the big screen, but now I do it on Zoom. So now I can pull up the 2 that met their criteria, and now they can see in real time that these 3 aren't even in an area that they would consider.
Right.
Okay. Now, if I told them that without the visuals, and now I wish I could just quickly make it go away, like, it's competitive. It's really competitive. You're going to have to offer more than full price, probably. Like, man, there's not very many that even meet your criteria. And I don't even think they're in the area. They're not in the area you want. Now they're having to trust me, and maybe I just sound lazy. And now they think I've never heard of Redfin or something. Right. We've all had that. Hey, have you seen this one on Zillow? So when I do this in real time and I show them, oh, well, and they're like, no, we wanted to be down here. And I'll go, yeah, I get that. All right, well, let's look back at your criteria. What do you think we could adjust? And now we're doing this together, right? Now it's a collaboration. This is also the time that you tell them that if they qualify for 500, they need to cap their search at 450, right? When they say, I can pay 600, say, terrific. We'll be looking up to, I would say 50,000 less.
Yeah, about 10%.
Yeah, you all have to know. I'm going to stop my screen share. You all have to know your own market, and so practice these. But these are my tips. Show list to sell ratio, show days on market, and make it an extremely visual. Don't tell them. Don't tell me you told them. Don't ask their permission. Don't ask if they're interested in an explanation. Tell them it's mandatory, and make it visual. And I'll tell you. Oh, thanks, Steve. Oh, could I make it full screen? Sorry, Jackie, I just saw that and I was having trouble with that. So that's my biggest tip. We do have a class on Monday. We're going to go in depth into everything involved in the buyer presentation because there's much more to it than that. But that's how I coach buyers to win. Charlie, I think you and I have talked about all the other things now that are super vital too. The appraisal considerations and all those. So what else are you talking about with agents that they have to educate buyers on?
This came up on the mastermind that I hosted a week ago. It always comes up on the masterminds right now, right? And one point is, if your down payment is amazing, why does your earnest money suck? Right? Why aren't those numbers a little bit closer together, if not, the same? And preparing people for the contingencies. Are you going to get a home inspection contingency in your market? Does it need to be for informational purposes only? Does it need to be a pre-inspection? Does it need to be the quick and dirty? You pay a couple $100 and the guy is there for an hour just testing the systems. Are you comfortable purchasing a home without having a home inspection? If you're buying a condo, it's not as big of a deal. But if you're buying a 40-year-old Rambler in Annandale, Virginia, that can be a costly mistake. But you may not have a choice. Right. So we're seeing stuff selling about 10% above in the burbs. And I saw on Facebook, there was an agent outside of our market. His bid won, and I guess the seller had a Peloton. They offered to give the seller 1 year of Peloton subscription. This was written in the contract. Yes. And offered a case of some fine wine. I don't drink, but I guess these are like $50 bottles of wine. And then they were going to give a case at closing. Wow. And obviously price and terms had something to do with it. I think that, as you mentioned, the appraisal consideration, being able to cover even part of an appraisal shortage is better than none at all. And we're seeing agents and clients win by just being able to cover a few thousand. Because oftentimes it's the terms It's
Yes.
the terms win over price. And I don't think there's any substitute for calling and trying to have a conversation with the listing agent, building rapport. I know there's some listing agents that aren't picking up the phone. They're only texting because they're getting so many offers, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that there's agents that are winning offers because of the rapport building and trying to give those clients and that listing agent exactly what they're looking for. And you don't know that. There's still, somebody was telling me she got like 10 offers, and half the offers came in and she didn't even know they were coming. They just appeared via email.
Oh.
There wasn't a conversation around terms or none.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, well, what are you thinking? So that's what I'm thinking of, kind of, off the top of my mind. And all of that needs to be part of the conversation that you're having with the client, right? During the strategy session, which is, I think, frankly, is a better term than that buyer consult that we've been using. I like the strategy session. I'd like to get together with you for 30 minutes to show you how my clients are winning in this competitive market. When are you available for that strategy session? I think that's the script I would use.
Yeah.
This all needs to be discussed way before they fall in love with their dream home.
Yes.
And what is earnest money, and how do they get it to the title company, and when do they get it back? And I'm a millennial. I don't even have a checkbook. What, I need to wire the money? All this should be coming up way in advance. And
yes.
It doesn't matter if they've bought before, unless they've bought in this market, in the same neighborhood, and they're like a serial investor buying every month.
Right.
They don't know today's market.
No. And somebody who bought a house 3 years ago and it wasn't with you didn't have this strategy session. So
right.
Don't ask them if they need it. Just say you're going to do it. Because I'm a trainer, I feel really confident insisting that I have something to share because I do it with agents. My favorite example of how I just go ahead and share is I'll ask, maybe it's a couple, do you understand radon? And they'll say yes. And I'll say, you know what? I'm going to explain it anyway because I'm good at it. And I'll do it, and I'll do my dance. And at the end, they're like, oh, because they have no idea. So quit asking people if they need an explanation and just offer it. Follow up with RE/MAX Allegiance has a buying guide. And now I'm wondering, based on your description of the number of things that need to be explained about earnest money, I think it needs to be edited. And I'm saying that, Charlie, because mine does. I have a very footnote, a tiny little line item. What are we going to think about when we write the contract page? And I was looking at it yesterday thinking, I want a page on earnest money and all the things that you said. How does it get transmitted?
And it would need to be edited because our buyer book I ripped off from you. Right. So your book is our book. As you know, this is not a surprise. So that probably does need tweaking, and everyone's a little bit different. And I just want to remind everybody that's watching that hasn't ordered these books, they are customizable. Yeah. The more customization you want, the more you're going to pay. Sure. But getting your information in there, getting your map of sales in there, along with the companies, getting the explanation on earnest money, and then some of this is going to have to be tweaked based on market conditions. These are things that you want to update every year anyway, with new stats and all that stuff.
Well, and I would say I wouldn't even put the stats in the book. So the book has like buyer process and things like that. It explains earnest money inspections, all those things. Yes, your bio, your credentials. So the book can be somewhat perennial, right? Mm-hmm. I agree with you that when adding in, competing offers and appraisal and stuff like that, that probably would change. But the stuff in real time in the MLS absolutely has to be done in real time. Don't ever pre-do that, package it up and say, well, I included it with the guide or I emailed it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's not the same.
Agreed.
Absolutely not the same.
A consultation either in person or on Zoom where you're showing them live stats, because I thought, what you were doing was brilliant, which is, okay, which of these two houses basically, right? And it's like, well, geez, maybe we need to widen our criteria a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they know that before they start looking, which is what we want. There may be some people that are like, you know what? This is a terrible time for me to buy. I'm going to go back to mom's basement for another year. And them realizing that now, before you've shown them properties and everything else, I don't think that's a loss, right? Because we know that there's buyers that are dragging agents all around the country, and some of them may just not be able to buy right now.
Can't win. Yeah. But I want to clarify that. And that's absolutely true. Some people can't buy in this market. And now would be the time to figure that out. But if they're saying, I can't buy right now, I'll wait 6 months. I'll wait for prices to come down.
That's a totally different discussion.
That's not a thing, right? So I was talking to my daughter about her prospects for buying, and she said, well, I just need to save up. And I said, the property that you want to buy is going up $5,000 a month.
Yep.
The interesting thing is waiting and saving actually won't help. So if there's
you can't save quick enough to keep up with price increases. I was having that exact conversation with somebody. Yep.
So if you're waiting to buy because it's just not something you can do right now, I get that. But if you're waiting to get ahead of it, or because you think prices are going to come down, I don't know when that will be or what that would look like. And in my market, it feels like we've got a good hard 18 months burn left. And that's only because I just can't see further than that. It's not because we don't have years to go. So anybody who says, I'm just going to wait because I think this is near the top and we're going to have a serious crash. In my market, I don't think it's true. We may level off, which would be great. I am not anticipating a crash based on our pent-up demand.
Right, but we've seen rates go up this year. So I think as we reopen and there's the pressure of inflation and stuff, we're going to see rates go up. I think that is a certainty. I'm not saying that they're going to go up a point or 2 points over the next year, right? But we've seen them steadily go up over the course of the year. So yeah, those that need to save, I think that's a dangerous game that they're playing, and I'm glad that you brought that up as well. We're a few minutes over. Amy, it's always good to see you. Appreciate your time this morning.
Absolutely.
Back over to Phonics.
Thank you so much for watching, and as always, we are here to make your real estate career better.
Good show today, everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care.